The sound check passed. Look at that. It's your turn to speak. Keep an eye on your time. Oh, right. Okay. Because I did it first. All right. Sounds good. Um. Okay. I put that feminism is not what it used to be, and that's a bad thing. I happen to think that feminism originated as like women basically trying to, get political equality, social equality, economic equality, all that fun stuff, which is totally fine. Like it's necessary. Um, and I happen to think that there's another aspect of feminism that's kind of lost throughout the ages, and that's that women should be women, and that is that they shouldn't they basically shouldn't be pressured into having to do things like I don't know, go to college and get a biology or an engineering degree if they don't want to. You know what I mean? You don't, and also you don't, and there are other things like you don't have to put on makeup and all that other stuff that women do all the time. But uh, basically, there's a social issue that I think where we've hit everything else properly, like social or not like political economic stuff, but there's a social angle where we're pressuring women to do things that I don't think they really want to do, and so I think that's causing a backlash, and uh, it's causing people to be angry at men too. So that's my main goal. I kind of want to see a social aspect push back a little bit, but everything else with feminism is totally fine. And for the record, I would think that I'm a feminist too. I'm not really ashamed to say it. I know there's a lot of guys that are ashamed to say that, but I don't really care. So, but I'll pass it on to you to see what you want to say, and then we can.
Okay, so this is a pretty interesting thought. I hadn't considered. I didn't know really which way you were coming from. I do consider myself a feminist as well, and I think one of the things that can be very, very confusing, it's difficult because there's no simple answers with feminism, and feminism is very like any social movement and anything with people is extremely like complicated and confusing. And from the outside perspective of a man, I can totally see why you would sort of come to that conclusion. With the idea of like women not wanting to like go out of the home and women not wanting to like go to college and things like that. I think it's important to remember that women are not a whole, like just like men are not a whole. Like women, there are women who want to stay home and be with their children, and there are women who absolutely do not want that at all. We're not woman as a big blob. We're an entire spectrum of people, and the idea is that they should, regardless of what they want, they should be able to make those decisions for themselves. Like they should be able to, if you want to stay home with your kids, as long as you work that out with your partner, then yeah, why not? Like if you want to go to college, you should be able to do that. um, there is something called internalized misogyny, where women, when you're raised in a culture that really kind of doesn't respect women and it doesn't respect women's sort of autonomy and all those things, you sort of get it. It's that whole idea of like Mean Girls, where girls get super competitive with each other and they fight over boys, and that really nasty thing. That's internalized misogyny. It's women feeling that women aren't good and women should stay home and they should do all these things, because educated women, they wouldn't want those things. There's a lot of rationalization that goes on because women can absolutely be women can absolutely be misogynist. There are female misogynists. There are women who hate women and who don't want the best for women. But regarding your other point about like we've met a lot of these goals, we super haven't actually. We've made a lot of great strides, which is awesome. Especially in the last few years, we've made a lot of great strides for like representation and things, and those sort of things. But we're not there yet. We've got some recent studies that have come out saying that 1 in 5 women will be raped in their lifetime, and that's sexual assault. And that's as to 1 to 71 men. So 1 in 5 versus 1 in 71 men. Recent study says that women are still experiencing sexual assault at this rate. And 72% of all murder suicides involve an intimate partner, and 94 of the victims of these murder suicides are female. So, you know, clearly from those statistics, you can see that women are still struggling to have autonomy in their relationships. We're still struggling to have a lot of social equality, where we're still seen sort of as possessions. We're still seen as like, you know, sort of beneath where we can be killed. Anyway, I'm just rambling. I'll let you.
Sure. So, I feel like we're going to agree a lot on this, and we're just gonna we might disagree on maybe the statistics. I'm not sure what the statistics are. I wouldn't mind looking at that. But I do find that strange, because if I were to go meet up with all my friends right now, and I were to see 5 of them that were women, I would then I'd ask, which one of you was raped, and I don't think any of them have. Or maybe I can go to 10, and then I'd ask which 2 of you were raped. So, I really want to know what they qualify as rape, or like where this sample was taken from. But I mean, that's a technical thing. We don't really have to get into that right now. It's just a minor rebuttal. The main thing I want to say is that, like, when a guy chooses to do nothing with his life, you kind of just call him a loser and be done with it. But when a woman chooses to do nothing with her life, some people may claim that, like, she just didn't have the opportunities or things like that. And the truth is that I think most people have opportunities, and people are different. Like, look, if a girl wants to stay home and be with her kids or whatever, she can do that. I don't really care. But I think a man should be able to do that too, and they should be allowed to go to college too. But I mean, especially with this political climate, there's this, like, women need to be represented in X, and so we're pushing for women to go to colleges, and then it turns out that I don't think many girls really want to go to college that bad. I mean, shit, I don't want to go to college. Like, college is not that fun. So, and plus I mean, there's a lot of problems with the college system right now. But and then you get a lot of girls, they go to college and then they end up taking something like gender studies courses or something like that. Something which, you can just learn it online, like I'm an art major, so I know how worthless my education is right now. And most of the stuff that I learned in college pales in comparison to things that I did on my own accord. So I'm just saying, like, when it comes to the peer pressure that girls receive, you called it internal misogyny as far as girls doing that to girls, but I do think there is an air of misogyny that we keep, we hate women, that we want them to be better to the point that it's harming, like, the confidence and the autonomy of the women that we're pushing this on. They should be allowed to do whatever the hell they want. And I do think that, you can do anything as good as a man, or you can do everything that a man can do and better. Well, I mean, yeah, you definitely, to some guys, sure, but not every guy, and not every girl either. I mean, everybody's an independent person. You know what I mean? Like, there's better basketball players. There's better men basketball players than other men. So, but you can't say that, a girl, you're going to be better than Michael Jordan. Like, no, it's just not going to happen. But there's going to be a girl that's good at something that nobody else can beat her at too. So I really want to just take a step back and say, the only thing that everybody gets is the freedom to be whoever they want. And then when you start, comparing apples to oranges, it should really just be the one apple to the one orange. You shouldn't compare the whole cluster. That's just me. So I'll pass it back to you, so we can actually find something that we can.
I think one of the issues that I am beginning to disagree with you on is the idea that, and this exists on a spectrum, but like the idea that America as a society is a meritocracy, where it's like we really want it to be. We want it to be a meritocracy, and like we're closer now than we've ever been, but we're not there yet. Women do struggle to, find their place in the world where they can be respected And women, like it sucks because again, it's very, very confusing. Women, like, I used to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm a freelance, like, single mom now. So I used to be a stay-at-home mom, and I got shat on almost exclusively by other women for staying home because I wasn't, doing more things with my life. And then when I left, I was shat on for not staying home with my kid. So it's like, you're so screwed either way, but so much of that has to do with the pressure women have on them all the time to be the perfect thing, and no one can decide on what that perfect thing is. And the problem that with that, like, I guess what the most modern parts of feminism, say third wave feminism, is saying you don't have to be perfect. You're a human being. You can do these things. You can do whatever you want. This sort of game that we play where it's like you have to be the perfect mom and you have to be the best educated and you have to do the best job and best, it's like, it's bullshit. It's all of these hoops that you have to go through, and it's unfair. It really, really is. The other thing that I do want to mention is, like, I see a lot of arguments with the hardcore social pressure of social justice, where there's so much fixation on, like, representation and this really strong, like, push of, like, women have to do this or you're not really a feminist. And I really am not down with that. I don't play that game. And I feel very, very strongly that there is a difference between feminism and something we call out culture, which is funny because we're on call out. No, but call out with a C. And it's this idea, those are the people who have their phones and they're like, this person just sexually harassed me because they talked about, that's not, I don't want to say it's like those people aren't feminists because I can't speak for them, but it's sort of like all jeans are pants, but not all pants are jeans. They are a portion, and a large portion of feminists don't really agree with those methods. I don't actually think that they're very progressive or helpful. But yeah, I'm gonna let you.
Yeah, I completely agree, honestly. Yeah, I mean, what else is there? I mean, because the thing is, it happens to men too, truthfully. It just happens to people, like yes, I'm guilty of this. I call out my brother. I won't tell you which one because I have like 5 of them, so there's a little anonymity there. But for just being like, hey, stop being a bum, get a job, or hey, make sure you handle this, that, and the third. You know what I mean? Just basically, you have certain responsibilities. You need to make sure that they're all met. And women, I guess they have their own particular set of responsibilities, that are women only, such as being a mom if you choose to be a mom, and I guess for a guy it would be being a guy if you want to be a guy. But I think that's really kind of like, I think that's the thing that of feminism that people forget, is that it is about equality between the sexes where there can be equality. You know what I mean? You have to concede that women are the only people who are going to keep a kid inside of them for 9 months. You know what I mean? Like, because we can't do that. We literally cannot. And you have to concede that men are the ones who are going to inseminate women. But as far as being able to change oil or pay the bills or stay at home with the kids or whatever the hell it is that that 2 people can do, either one of them can choose. It's up to them. It's up to them, as an individual. So a lot of feminism, I guess I should start an argument here since I'm the one who brought this shit up. A lot of feminism I see right now, especially there's someone personal in my life, a family member of mine, who she goes on about this thing, like rape culture, and which I'm sure you've probably heard of it. It's it's kind of rampant on the internet. And the thing is that I'm never gonna say that rape is good. Obviously, it's bad, but I'd be remiss to say that anybody's like promoting rape. I feel like there is a very anti-rape culture, because every time a girl gets raped, it's virtually the end of the world, short of the world actually ending. So I just don't see where they're getting this rape culture idea from. So yeah, so I'll pass it back to you. I think.
Rape culture, yeah. This is a big one for a lot of people. It's one of those things where, again, it's just so complex because it has to do with like people's levels of consciousness, right? Like on the surface, yeah, rape is horrible. Everybody knows rape is horrible. It's horrible. But then when you get deeper down and we start thinking about, we start having to pass judgment. That's when people start talking about rape culture. There was a very famous case a few years ago called the Stebbinsville rape case, where a girl was got totally blitzed out drunk because she was 16 and being a total idiot, and then she was assaulted by 5 of her classmates, and this entire room filmed it, put it on the internet, and like it went on forever and no one intervened. There were many people in the room, and even people who thought they were like, oh my god, they didn't do anything, which is one level of it. And then at least 2 of the boys, these were like 16 to 18 boys who did this, they were on the football team. And this small town, after it came out what had happened, they rallied around these boys and said, you're going to ruin their careers. She asked for it because she was drunk. She's 16. She was like horribly, treated and sexually violated and then humiliated while blackout drunk on the, like, there was no like, in it, did they or didn't they, because it was all over the internet. And it was horrible. And this entire town said, well, she's a slut, this girl. And then there was another one in Texas where the girl was like 13, and they said, and it was like 3 almost adult men who were like, she's the town slut. Everybody knows that. And so it's like, when you read the headline, girl raped, everyone thinks horrible. But then when it comes to enacting real justice about it, that's when things called victim blaming occur. And it, unfortunately, it just statistically is so rampant. It really is. When we get into the justice system, and when you talk to survivors of rape and things like that, what you find is many of them, the first people they tell do not believe them. And then even if they have evidence, even if it's proven right, they're then ostracized because people just don't know how to deal with the idea of that. And it's so hard sometimes for women to get real justice for rape. And that's what rape culture is. It's very unfortunate.
All right. Well, that's a good explanation. I've never heard rape culture is you can just nod if I'm hitting this right. So rape culture really is the idea that a lot of women aren't getting justice when they are raped, right? Is that basically sort of like there is a, because on the one hand, I understand the victim blaming aspect. Like I I mean that in the sense that I could, I guess, blame the girl, because if I'm drinking and I do something stupid, the only time that that anybody ever gives me a pass is when I'm being raped. But if I'm like driving, or if I'm like doing anything stupid, people are like, well, why are you drunk and being, be responsible? You know what I mean? So that's one hand. On the other hand, she is a minor, and well, it sounds like all of them are minors. So it's it's like so many different layers in that case with the and I guess the other aspect of rape culture would be the shaming part, where they call her a slut, right? So I'm trying to hit every degree here. Is that the basic? All right. I mean, that's yeah. But at the same time, like, I think there is a stigma like that for men too. Like when boys have sex with female teachers and whatnot, hardly anyone can believe that like it's a problem for the boys. You know what I mean? Hardly anybody would consider that that they were abused, or that it could be a negative. And I'm one of those people. And I know it's fucked up for me to admit, but I'll give you a tiny little anecdote real quick before I'll pass the mic. I was in a neighborhood going to someone's house, and I heard a guy say, "Get away from me, bitch," and he was yelling, and I was like, "What?" Like I thought he was talking to me, so I looked back, and this guy's just like walking super fast, like away, like his head is down or whatever, and some girl was chasing him, and he was like, "No, no, no, no," and I was like, "Oh snap! Is this like, like, am I gonna have to intervene here?" Like, you know what I mean? I thought something was, so, but it turns out that she was the one chasing him, and he wanted her to leave, and so after that, I'm not gonna lie, I laughed because it was just funny just seeing like some guy like try to get away from this girl and she just wouldn't let up. You know what I mean? But if it was reversed, I would have been like, "Hey, back off from the girl," or whatever. So, and that's and yeah, and it hit me as it was happening. Like, man, I'm being super sexist right now because I'm totally putting them on different levels. But you know, if you want to, I guess I'll admit that rape culture would exist if we would concede that there's varying degrees of problems for both sexes. But
Yes, and that's the anecdote about like responsibility, and that's another thing that is that's a big question. A lot of people have different stances within feminism about like how much personal responsibility do you have if you get crazy drunk and then you get raped at some place. For me, I personally, I don't drink alcohol, but when I did, I'm like, I have the awareness of I'm not going to get that drunk because I don't feel like I'm in a safe place where I can do that, because I'm just not in a safe place. That it the argument is like you should be able to get blackout drunk and not have somebody sexually violate you, because most of the time when men get blackout drunk, the worst thing that could happen to them is like they get their wallet stolen, or like someone draws a dick on their face, and so like it does happen to men, just not nearly at the same volume, like the same amount that women are seen as like sexual objects to be preyed upon when they're unconscious. But and then there is a point when your responsibility and your autonomy is completely taken out of it when it comes to like getting drugged, which is another problem. That now they now have actually a really cool nail polish that you can dip into your drink that changes color if it's been drugged, which is so fucked up that we have to have that, but it is a thing that exists. The other thing is, yes, about feeling like it's funny that guy was getting chased by that woman. That's our culture. We believe that men, that it's the idea that it's funny because it's a woman chasing a guy, right? Because women are weak and inferior. We're not thinking that on the top of our head. That's not in the front. That's deep down in here. That it's funny, that guy should be able to handle that, and how funny and weak he looks for running from that woman. It's not like I haven't laughed at something like that too, because I am also an American and I grew up in this culture. If you were born and raised in America, you are a sexist. It doesn't matter, like you were raised in that. The question is, what do you do about it? Do you look at it and go, yeah, that's actually kind of fucked up? Or do you go, well, that's just the way I was raised, and rape's funny, and no. We're all a little bit racist, and we're all a little bit sexist, because that is our culture at its core right now. It's the culture of the 90s. It's the culture of the 80s. Going back further, it gets way worse. The question is, what do we do about it? Do we face it? Do we challenge ourselves and go, I don't like that actually, or do we ignore it like little babies? So I'm going to pass the mic.
Well, it sounds to me like you're like someone once told me that there's fourth wave feminism going on right now, which shocked me because I could have sworn we just started third wave. But that was basically, those are the type of people that would say like, the girl had, she should be able to do whatever. I mean, yes, she should be allowed to do whatever. Like I should be able to have all my money like on my desk in my house, open my door and leave for like a week and come back and everything's gonna be fine. You know what I mean? That I should be able to live in a world where nobody's gonna fuck with my stuff. Okay, but that's just not the world we live in. Um, so I just, that's why a lot of us are like, hey, you got to take some personal responsibility and some, uh, and it's not even responsibility at that point. It's really just uh, covering your ass from other people. Um, and yeah, it's fucked up, but I mean, hey, there's predator prey scenario happens in every aspect of life. So I think that a lot of third wave and fourth wave feminism are trying to uh, put women in a unique situation uh, where they don't ever think that they'll be preyed upon. And that sounds really cool. Like it sounds like a neat place, but the fact is that in order to get rid of the predator prey scenario, you don't really have to do anything for the prey as much as you have to get rid of the predator. See what I'm saying? But then again, that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So because no, I'm serious. It's like saying like don't ever cuss, don't ever lie, don't ever steal. Like come on, that's not going to happen. um so I think the best way to do that is just make the prey defensible versus the predator, because I don't think we'll ever be able to get rid of the predator aspect of it. um and it's just because I mean, every time you get a new human being, a new human life, they don't have the experience that other people do to say that I'm not going to be a predator. You know what I mean? It's just our natural instinct to do things that are fucked up. So yeah. But I'll.
Why didn't you say that line earlier? Because I totally could have argued that. So here's the thing that I, predator and prey, we don't exist in a vacuum. Like things used to be for women way worse. And why are they better now? Well, they're better now because we've worked really hard at it, because we've raised expectations for men. And we've also like, it's now illegal to beat your wife. It's like that's helped. And it's also socially unacceptable to beat your wife or beat up anybody, right? It's socially not acceptable. It used to be like the law was literally you could not rape your wife. It was not rape if you forced sex on your wife, and now it is. So if what we have to do is, I think that you're never going to completely get rid of rapists. You're never going to completely get rid of darkness and evil in people, because that is always there. But we can diminish it. We can make it less for people and put women in a safer position than they are now. And part of that is teaching boys from a young age that girls are not objects, teaching them from just not to rape and how bad rape is. And if you see someone in that situation, to intervene. If it's also about teaching girls about how to take responsibility for themselves and to protect themselves and each other. And it also is like when a person, male or female, is a rapist, they have to be brought to justice. There is no like, well, what was she wearing? Was he drunk? Like, no excuses. If someone is a rapist, they have to face serious consequences instead of like 6 months in jail, which is insane for something so atrocious, and sometimes not even that. So raising standards, I think, will diminish those problems. We'll never get fully rid of them, but it will improve things. And taking that stress off women, taking that constant anxiety off women will allow us more freedom to like do the things we want to do, regardless of whether that's like, I want to stay home with my kid, or I want to go to college, or I want to do literally none of those things and stay home and eat Cheetos and play Final Fantasy VII. So, yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out exactly the part that we disagreed on. I think, because I mean, I think it seems really simple. Like, yeah, we're never going to get rid of predators like that. I mean, we can definitely diminish it. We can definitely make it so men don't want to do those things. But the main issue that I think I want to see, I guess, feminism take is arming women to defend themselves. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like, like, hey, you can do whatever you want, and it's not your fault or whatever. I'm like, well, it's not your fault, but if you wanted to avoid it in the long run, you could have did something to deter it. See what I mean? So, helping yourself from not being raped is not mutually exclusive from it not being your fault.
Is my I have 4 seconds.